Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central. On a Thursday, I am Benga Aborowa. That's the program where we bring you the best of news and insightful conversations. It's been a very packed week and we're approaching at the end of the week, which makes me really sad. One of the things I regret in life is that I don't get to work and see these amazing people for 7 days. But I understand, even God rest them.
You're welcome to the show.
It's my perspective. Don't misconstrue me, or what's that word?
Sorry, I will not misconstrue you.
What's the word the chief farmer of Niger State used?
I forgot to know.
He said it was misconstrued.
Yes. He wants media, especially like the media. We shouldn't. I think we shouldn't blow things out of proportion.
You know why I'm happy this morning? I'm going to clap
because
we're going to X-ray it. So X-ray where the misconstrue in statements came from.
All right, but before we get into explaining the misconstruction of the Niger State Governor's statement, I want to say welcome and officially introduce ourselves again for those who are watching for the very first time. If this is your first time watching Breakfast Central, you're very welcome. First timers are welcome. The ushers will give you snacks. Please stay behind after so that we can get to know you better. And whilst there's a lot of decamping happening, people moving from one political party to another, we're assuring you we're not porting or decamping from Breakfast Central. We're here to bring you the latest in the world of politics and the economy. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Joe Hansen, welcoming you to today's edition on Breakfast Central. Oliver said it quite right in what took place yesterday was a shocker for some people. But then again, it's what we do every now and then. Our job is simply to just report the happenings, and it's no way surprising to see that people are moving from one place to the other. It's a case of hopping from one spot and moving to another place just to ensure something.
Anywhere the left is.
Yes, we'll get to find out.
Behind it, but we'll get there in our conversations.
All right, so maybe we should start with Niger State Governor. There are two videos. We played one yesterday, and we're probably going to play that one first, so that you can see, in case you haven't seen the video, so that we understand where exactly did the misconstruction come from, and then we'll play the update. So yesterday we took the video of the Niger State Governor talking about the fight against insecurity and criminality in Niger State, and he particularly tasked security operatives to arrest any young person they saw with dreads. Okay, maybe I'm misconstruing, just so that I do not misconstrue his statement. Let's take a look at the video.
Security is everybody's business. I don't want to hear any news about that. Nobody is above the law. And the primary responsibility of government is to provide for the security and lives of the citizens. I will lead the operation. I will follow each street of Mina, will fish them out, and we are going to make sure we deal with them accordingly.
So these are some of the things he said. He went further to say that buildings where they find people who are alleged criminals should be demolished. And yesterday on the show, we started the conversation criticizing the statement, saying that it was unconstitutional, those statements, because he's infringing on their right to freedom of expression. And it's unconstitutional. That's no way to handle crime, especially because I did say that there were those whose identity, their spirituality is largely linked to their hair, their dreadlocks, and that the world is moving on. So I know we're not the only ones who talked about this. He gathered a lot of backlash on social media. So he's doubled back on his statements. There's another video. Let's take a look.
The Riot Act on hooliganism, and people misconstrued our words for people who have dreadlocks. We don't have problem with dreadlocks, but we have problem with the cult here with dreadlocks. So if you have dreadlocks and you have business, please come to Niger State. All that is a media propaganda. We are not driving dreadlocks from Niger State. We are only driving that cult that is becoming a menace in Niger State. Thank you, and God.
So zero tolerance to rascality in Mina. Anybody that you find with a barber or dreadlock, arrest him, barb his hair, and find him. nobody should carry any kind of court again inside Minna. I have given you marching order, the security agencies.
I don't understand. So where's the misconstruction there? Where's the media propaganda? Something as simple as I aired in the statements that I made, I apologize and I take it back.
Exactly.
Why do we have this whole thing
Why do you
of...
always have to blame other people?
Why? I don't understand
Take
it.
responsibility.
I applaud him for doubling, going back on what he said, but there are ways in which you go. Well, it wasn't a propaganda. The statement was clear. You said anybody they see with dreadlocks should be arrested, and they should baba the hair. So I don't understand.
I mean, he said in clear terms. He didn't even give conditions. Anybody.
He did not say anybody that is in court. And how do you even know someone that is in court? How do you see somebody with their hair and then you assess? It's just like somebody looking at me and saying, from the way you address, I think you might be a banker. Or you might be a, you can't make this assessment.
I'm just looking at Joe. I think Joe, maybe he's a shotter journalist. And that's why Joe is angry. Joe has been shaking his head like Anita Bhatta in an India movie when we're growing up. So please, you have the floor.
Well, I must tell you that I'm surprised, but I'm not really surprised, I mean, with jokes apart, like we say, whenever we start wake-up conversations, we use it to, lighten the mood, get ourselves together, and going because of the stories you hear. Sometimes can be very depressing. But this is one story I think our colleagues should rally round and possibly educate the governor.
He also needs to apologize.
Yes, let's
Media
educate.
propaganda.
And I think Governor Umar, if you are watching, I think you need to put out an apology to members of the press. Seriously, you need to do another video and apologize, because you said something. You said media propaganda. Propaganda.
Well, maybe it wasn't just targeting the press.
It's a strong word.
So in terms of media propaganda,
Olive. When we allow certain things slide, it now looks like it's the norm.
True.
We shouldn't allow this slide, especially for the fourth realm. We shouldn't allow it slide. We should help them by reminding them that we are very important in any governmental administration, and therefore, and it's also going to help him to sit up next time. You will no longer come out in public where you have cameras and people and you just say anything you want to say.
Yes.
And that's why I was trying to get a few persons to join the show this morning. And that's why, if you look at leaders in positions, I'm going to mention CEOs in companies. I'm going to mention the likes of Tony Elumelu, even as far as Dangote and so on. Before they come out to speak, they have professional communication experts.
I was going to go back to that because you mentioned that yesterday.
Yes, they will sit down and say, okay, can we see your script? They will edit. I've been privileged to do that once. I've been privileged to train once. When I say once, like train, a few persons, a few CEOs, and they ask questions. And they say, okay, can I say this? No, you can't say that. However, if you need to pass a message out, your script has to be properly edited. And you'll be warned that please be careful. Do not say this. Now, there are also statements that the popular quote that was mentioned or statement that was made during the inauguration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that subsidy is gone, it was not on the script.
Yeah.
Do you get what that can lead to? And we know what happened. Immediately that statement was made, what happened to the filling stations? Today, we're still feeling the impacts, the prices and so on.
I mean, just to add to what you've said, communication is important. People who hold certain offices need to understand that the weight that their words carry, that they make a slight, seemingly random comment or pronouncement, and it becomes something that is enforceable. People act on that. But also, just to say that we need to step back from the cultural way of handling crisis. In Nigerian culture, when we're
able to apologize.
Exactly. When you were younger, a number of people in our generation will say, when our parents have done something they shouldn't do, and they've offended the kids, they'll now go, what you eat? Oh, yeah, it's right.
Exactly.
Say, look, I did this and I shouldn't have done it, and I'm sorry. It's okay to take accountability. That's a great hallmark.
Period.
We are glad that he's clarified that.
You guys have said it all. But my takeaway from this is that the Rastafarians can now return to...
Exactly, I was going to say the lifestyle.
Can return to Zion and Babylon.
But then again, in as much as we're laughing at this, Governor, please, I think you need to put out another video and apologize appropriately.
Yeah, I
We
think that
appreciate the fact
really
that you did not
asking for
allow
too much.
24 hours to pass before you came out to say
Because
this.
the backlash was a lot.
Yeah, but please don't blame the media. Don't.
I mean,
don't.
Do you know what governors
Don't blame the media for your
chief
errors.
executives of the state, there's a lot of ego
You could tell.
behind it. So not everyone is Lagos State governor.
could tell.
The Lagos State governor apologized after
Just
the
apologize.
traffic debacle of a few weeks ago.
Just apologize.
The good thing is I'm glad that it's been sorted, it's been clarified, and I'm hoping that the Nigerian police and all other security operatives can take note that dreads is not an indication of a commission of criminality or thuggery in any way, shape, or form.
All right.
Let's move to our other story now.
Let's move to our next story. A video did circulate yesterday on Threads. I don't know if it was on X. And we quickly latched on it. It was about the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We also heard he had met with security operatives, security chiefs, to talk about and find lasting solution to Nigeria's insecurity challenges. In that video, a journalist was seen asking him questions about the situation in River State and the sole administrator. And the president went ahead to say that he was going to give the FCT minister, a timeline to ensure he sorts or solves the problem. If he doesn't, then of course he's going to take his own action. Exactly what he said. But let's take a look at that video, and then we'll come back and see what this means, especially for the people of River State, and then a little chit chat on the sole administrator's role as well. Stay with us. Take a look.
We've concentrated on pulling Nigeria from the boot trap of depression, and we understand the sovereignty of the country. You don't need additional distraction to be able to concentrate on building a new economy for the people, an inclusive one for that matter. And the judgment of the Supreme Court put a stop to shenanigans, put a stop to innuendos, put a stop to lies of trial in the media and public place. The court has demonstrated in this visible commitment to rule of law and humanity, and their commitment to do justice for all Nigerians, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other biases.
All right, so that video you saw, the extension also went ahead to mention, of course, in the article there, that President Tinubu has spoken to Wike, the FCT minister, and told him to go ahead and sue for peace. Many have celebrated that story. For us down here, we think that it is a good response, Benga and Olive, to what Nigerians have been asking for. You know, after that live broadcast, a lot of us have asked, will the president speak again? Is he going to address the public? Is he going to talk about the rivers issue? In that video, he said, one, that the Supreme Court has put a stop to any shenanigans, any innuendo, or any issue. Number two, I also made mention that it's high time that, all these things are addressed so that they would, find a lasting solution. One of the things he said, of course, which that video did not capture, was the fact that many journalists have said that further in that conversation, it was said that he has told the FCT minister to go ahead and ensure that everything is sorted out.
Right there in his presence.
Yes. Yeah. And I think for me, when I saw this video, I first of all sat down and said, okay, and then looked at the story and I said, okay, something we can talk about on Wake Up Conversations in the sense I think it's making a headway.
It's a step in the right direction. Quite presidential.
He has finally spoken as well about it. And I think all the analysts who have been asking and calling for the president to equally speak again, I think he has been able to...
In all fairness, just to go back to you saying that analysts and people have been calling for the president to speak again. When the president spoke the first time, people were not kind to him. They were asking, who asked you? Why are you involving yourself as a president? Why are you involving yourself in state matters? So I think that those who may have criticized the fact that he didn't step in, right? I don't understand the premise for the criticism, because he did step in the first time and he was largely criticized for stepping in. So it's almost like you do, you are done. You don't, you're done. I
agree. So for those who are wondering, will the FCT minister be suspended? Well, the answer to that question is no. Is no. I would happily tell you it's going to be no.
Tell us why.
He will not be suspended.
Same, I would put a wager on that.
This is where her analysis come in. I would tell you categorically he would not be suspended. Wike would not be suspended. Rather, I think
there will
be a middle ground.
Somebody would move to.
You think he will move today?
I didn't mention his name.
Politics is like football. Anything can happen.
We get to find out who the person is.
Well, so far, at least reports have it that Governor Sheriff Oborevwori, former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, and who is, was a vice presidential candidate for People's Democratic Party at the last elections, is now standing on the mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So, politics, elections in Nigeria, really, like I said, politics is like football. Anything can happen.
Termed it survival, but we'll get into the conversation proper. Yeah. And do we have time for last?
Yes. Let's take the last one. Take us to Abia State.
Yes, jubilating. Just yesterday on Which Way Nigeria, I did a piece on lack of street lights in Lagos, and it's almost like the Abia State people were listening. They said, "You guys call yourselves the center of excellence. You lack street lights, but look at us." So let's take a look at that video.
They not like us. They not like us.
Anyway, we have that video. Let's put it up, and you see.
Years. Street light. In Port Harcourt Road. People are very, very excited. Enjoyment. Very long. People are very happy.
So kudos to Governor Alex Otti for making people in Abia State very happy. Enjoyment. Enjoying is wounding them, and the Goshen's are craving for this sort of enjoyment. We used to enjoy like this in the past. I remember Light of Lagos project under Governor Ambode, but what we have now seems like past glory, and the new guys are enjoying in Abia State. Enjoyment.
The rest of the country be like, God, where?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's important to give credit where credit is due. Governor Alex Otti has been, apart from the Labour Party politics, internal drama, the people of Abia State, the reports that you would often get would be that he's doing a great job. So kudos to him. Congratulations to the people of Abia State. We want to see this replicated in different parts of the country, where we're seeing, because the truth is, it might sound like it's fickle, but it's not. Street lights would solve a lot of problems for us. People would feel safer at night because, unfortunately, I mean, in places like Lagos, for example, where you have to travel from the mainland to the island for work and back to the mainland, and we have to take long commutes. You want to feel safe whilst moving on the road. It might not completely eradicate crime, but it will greatly reduce it, because people will need a lot of guts, really, to be able to operate when everywhere is properly lit up. That's one. Then two, the incidences of accidents will be reduced, because people can see roads ahead. People can see if there's a speed bump, if there's a pothole. Hopefully we won't get to the same potholes. And then everybody doesn't have to turn on their full lights, because you're driving at night, your full light is on. The person in front coming on the other side, their full light is on. You can't see, you run into each other. It's just really a crazy situation. But we look forward to seeing it.
I have a message for the young men that are drinking there. Please, you can move to the side of the road next time. You're quite literally on the road, and it could lead to, imagine there was an accident.
I don't really understand. So for me, I mean, I don't know. I'm indifferent about this.
About them sitting on the road.
I'm indifferent.
No. About the light or the guys sitting on the road.
Yeah, about the light. I'm indifferent.
Tell us why.
Wow, these guys are really enjoying.
So you're indifferent because
of beverage.
Benga, I'm indifferent because I think we have been
conditioned to celebrate mediocrity.
We've been locked up with physical,
mentally,
which of course is a current, but we've been mostly locked up with mental, and I would want to add spiritual chains.
The bar is so low.
So much that the bar is so low that street light
You're right.
is now being celebrated.
Very humbling.
When there's a government, what is the role of the government? Is it not to provide these things? So street light is now saying enjoyment, enjoyment.
So
what if the same government now decides to give you clean water, transportation, everything? What will happen?
Quality health.
So once I
Quality
see where you're coming, Joe, where you're coming from, because I mean, oftentimes we hear people say we are applauding them for the barest minimum, for doing the basics and doing the things that they should do. But I hold a different perspective. The same way that you have a family system, you do things for your children. It's your responsibility to pay their fees. But when you do, and they come to you and say, "Daddy, thank you," right? It's a sign of appreciation. So for me, it's not necessarily because I think that, oh, we're thanking them for the barest minimum. The way that I see it is, we call out bad behavior. Yes, we've fallen below the bar. Our expectation is below the bar. So we call out bad behavior. So when somebody is doing what they should do, regardless of how little it is, it's important to
in the midst of many people,
so it's not like we're always flogging.
I also want to put it to you, Joe Hansen.
No. I think we're
that Rome was not built in a day. If Rome was built in a day, we would not be hiring high-tech or Julius Berger. We would be hiring Roman engineers.
Wow.
Well,
and it's on that note.
I still don't agree.
We dropped the mic.
I still don't agree.
But we should ask you what you think to our viewers. You can tweet at us individually and let us know whose argument you align with. Joe thinks that we should not be celebrating something
my analogy
small.
would be your children gave you money. Your children gave you money to use it to take care of them. And you used it. They will come back and say, "Oh, thank you for using it."
It's not really, it's saying, "Oh, well done. I saw that you used the money for what I asked you to do."
Thank you,
well
no
done.
celebration.
Thank you,
I've
whatever.
changed my position. I agree with Joe.
Do you understand?
So let's
taxpayers' money. That's what I'm saying. In other words, it's taxpayers' money.
No, but what we are not saying, we're not being like, "Oh, thank you so much, oh, we appreciate it." It's just
That's
like,
what they're doing now.
No, I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us saying, "Oh, well done." You know, it's good to point that out. The same way we call out bad behavior, it's important. It's a carrot and stick approach. You reward good behavior, you punish bad behavior.
It's enjoyment.
You know, name and shame.
I can't wait to celebrate in Lagos, though, because we're domiciled in Lagos. I can't wait for my own enjoyment.
Anyway, let us know what you think. Tweet at us individually or at News Central TV to see, do you think that we're celebrating the barest minimum, that our standards have become so low and we shouldn't applaud these governors when they do the barest minimum, such as street light? Or do you think that there's really nothing there in the same way that we call out bad behavior? We should applaud people who do what they're meant to do. Let us know at News Central TV on X. But now let's share with you what's happening today on Breakfast Central. Our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central. Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori dumps PDP and ports to the APC. Delta State Commissioners, former governor dumped PDP ahead of 2027 elections. I was talking about former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. Professor Pat Utomi set to mobilize Nigerians to reclaim country, and Nigerian Army tasked journalists on conflict-sensitive reportage. And we also be reviewing the newspaper front pages this morning. This is the point where we open the phone lines when we review the papers. So get ready to call in and share your thoughts.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Following an expanded stakeholders meeting held on Wednesday at the Delta State Government House in Asaba, Governor Sheriff Oborevwori announced his resignation from the ruling PDP in the state to join the All Progressives Congress APC. Let's tell you all about it as our correspondent Austin Azu filed in this report.
At the end of the closed-door meeting, the State Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Charles Aniago, flanked by the pioneer PDP chairman in the state, James Manager, Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Festus Aho, and Executive Assistant to the Governor on Public Enlightenment, Projects and Policies, Olise Fejika, briefed journalists on the outcome of the meeting.
And in taking that decision, we came to the inevitable conclusion that moving out of the PDP is very, very necessary for us to be able to collaborate with our kith and kin and build that state that every Delta will be proud of. We believe that what is happening and the state of the PDP is akin to that palm wine whose tastes have changed, and there was a need for us to change the drinking pattern.
Onyango says all stakeholders, including leaders and members of the PDP, resolved to join Governor Sheriff Oborevwori to move to the APC and would be received at a rally by Vice President Kashim Shettima in Asaba on Monday.
Unanimously by leaders and stakeholders of the party, and by the grace of God, on Monday next week, we will be able to make a very big statement as to the fact that we are moving into the APC.
Providing further details, James Manager discloses that due to the unresolved leadership crisis rocking the party at the national level, it becomes imperative for the state PDP to move into the APC to win the 2027 elections in the state.
PDP is in trouble, truly. So for so many other deeper reasons that I'm not in the position to give you now, I don't think it is good enough for the PDP family in Delta to continue to be inside that boat.
Observers are key at how the political climate unfolds in Delta State, with further defections anticipated at the world level in the coming days. In Asaba for News Central, Austin Azu.
Well, you heard it there from our reporter, Austin Azu. Well, we do have live in the studios political public affairs analyst, one who has followed this story very closely. Jide Johnson joins us. And in the interim, we'll try to see if we can also connect to another member of the party who will be joining us later on. But good morning and welcome.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Good day to our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm not going to go far into, big question to start off. What's your reaction to what you saw yesterday play out?
It's nothing new in our polity. If you recall, you take historical antecedent. In 2003, towards the re-election of Obasanjo, the 6 ED governors had an alliance with Obasanjo's administration, in which that the governors worked for Obasanjo's re-election, which he contested against President Muhammadu Buhari. In actual sense, that alliance saved Obasanjo from losing his re-election bid, because states that were controlled by PDP in the north actually was won by the ANPP, Kano, which led to the loss of, what's the name of this ANPP presidential candidate? I'll remember his name now. The presidential candidate for ANPP in 2023 was then the governor of Kano State. He lost the election. PDP lost Bauchi State. And then if you fast forward to 2007, when Yar'Adua became the governor, we saw the movement of ANPP governor from ANPP, the governor of Zamfara State, the governor of Bauchi State, Ali Yuguda, the governor of Kebbi State, and then the governor of Atayiru Bafawara, the governor of Sokoto State. In actual sense, that of Yar'Adua we saw the movement of northern governors in the opposition into movement into PDP. We even have an arrangement that has to do with marriages, whereby 3 of Yar'Adua's daughters were married to some of these opposition governors. Then he moved to 2011 when Jonathan was the president. We saw Ikedi Ohakim of PP, Theodore Orji of PP moving into PDP. So you fast forward to 2015, you see PDP governors, particularly majority of them from the north, leaving with Tiamishi, moving from PDP to form APC. And then in 2019, we saw Ben Ayade of Cross River State, the governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, all leaving, then Bello Matawali, all leaving PDP. So this kind of movement, when election is coming, you see that the political class in Nigeria, because there's no political ideology, they begin to jump ship and go into a party that they think that, well, it is easier for them to win re-election, particularly when the president is seeking re-election, because we have not done anything about electoral reforms.
So all the talk about, internal party crisis is just a convenient excuse.
How many years as J manager? You look at the characters that are talking. How many years was J manager Senator of the Federal Republic? How many years? James Manager was Senator of the Federal Republic for four. And after I left the senatorial seat, is now the PDP state chairman. See, all what these people think about is their political survival. It's not about you and I.
Let's talk about Okowa. I mean, just recently, he was the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. That position is very senior. It was former governor. And we understand he's been having visits to the EFCC recently on accusations of corruption. Now he has decided to join the APC. Do you think, I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, you don't work with the EFCC, but do you think this trial will continue and we'll see the end of it? Or like the antecedents we've seen in the past, will his sins be forgiven by the, and swept away by the APC program?
You recall when Madam Sushiomale was the national chairman of APC, he said once you come to APC, all your sins are forgiven. It's credited with that. And then you recall that Godswill Akpabio was the Senate minority leader. In actual sense, the Senate rule was bent for him to become the Senate minority leader because he was a first-timer senator. And then Godswill Akpabio was visiting the EFCC, and then he dropped the Senate minority leader to become an ordinary floor member by jumping ship from PDP to APC. And then what have we had concerning that issue? What have you had concerning the issue of Yaya Bello? So the bottom line is that, and that's why a lot of people have said that what EFCC is doing is to engage in political trial and not really pursuing economic and financial crimes committed by political actors and gladiators. And so once you change your identity from, like, that's why the political class in Nigeria, like
the EFCC is not independent?
It's under the presidency. Can an institution superintended by the presidency be independent? The institution, it's who appoints the EFCC.
I mean, when Ribadu was the EFCC chairman, he did.
Well, you are taking me to a slippery slope. You recall what Ribadu said concerning the present president that is serving as a national security advisor? These are on record. It's not Jide Johnson's statement. It's not your statement. These are public domain statements. What he said concerning the president is serving while he was national security advisor is in public domain. So people don't even glorify Ribadu. Don't glorify anybody when it comes to politics, because in politics all that matters is enlightened self-interest.
All right. I mean, I want to go back to the Ifeanyi Okowa question, seeing that Ifeanyi Okowa is moving to the APC. Now, you recall that Ifeanyi Okowa, even becoming the vice presidential candidate for the People's Democratic Party, many argue that this issue with Nyesom Wike now, that was part of it, because Wike had hoped to have worked with him. So Atiku ignored Obi, ignored Wike, went with Okowa, and now this has happened. Some are saying that it might in some way be linked to or reflecting poorly on Atiku's leadership or Atiku's grasp of the PDP. Do you share such sentiments? Even Atiku himself, as a vice presidential as a sitting vice president, left PDP to be the AC, presidential candidate in 2000. In 2007, it was the sitting president. You also recall that there is always every attempt by a first-time president to decimate the opposition party. It started in 1999. You recall that Obasanjo made the two national chairmen of the Alliance for Democracy and the All People's Party, Dr. Mahmoud Waziri, to be members of his sitting cabinet. And then one of the frontliners of the contender, Chief Bola Ige of blessed memory, became the Minister of Power and Mines under Obasanjo, and later the Minister of the Attorney General of the Federation. So all of these things that we talk about, this present, you'll be shocked.
It's basically a script.
You see, when they do, you don't even actually know which party they belong to until 2027 and the primary season starts. When the primary season starts, the APC ship is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. But it gets to a point that it can't accommodate all political interests. And then when it gets to that level, you see they begin to move. But there's always a trend.
But why does this time feel different? A lot of people have been talking about state capture, one-party state. Why didn't we see this sort of conversations in the past?
No, it's not.
Like you said, and rightly so, the facts speak for themselves. It's not the first time governors are defected. It's happened in the past.
No, there's always a divide, and this is the dangerous slope of Nigerian politics. There's always a dangerous divide. You recall when Yar'Adua was there, the movement of governors from the opposition to the mainstream party was from the north. You recall when Buhari's emergency 2015, you saw the majority of the governors that moved from PDP to APC were from the north. You saw when Obasanjo was there in 2003, he was the Southwest governor that had an alliance without presenting a presidential candidate. So there's nothing new. What is just there is that a lot of electorates are now more enlightened, and we are in the age of social media whereby a lot of people can pass their comment, can raise issues. In the past, it was controlled by the mainstream. But so there's nothing new. You could see that there's a divide. You see that there is the graveyard silence coming from the north, with some lone voice in the desert coming from the north. And you see majority of the movement coming. And then if you look at the map of presidential election in Nigeria, it has always been a north and south divide, which is unfortunate. Everyone that has won from the south only get pockets of votes from the north central. All you need to do is to have the whole of south to yourself, and then you get some pockets of vote, 3 or 4 states from the north central. And that's the dangerous trend concerning our politics. And I think that's the permutation guide is. What the president is, the grandmaster of the president re-election, what they are doing is, let's secure the south. Once we secure the south, and we're able to get pocket of state from the north, then we get re-election. Look at Obasanjo's election, re-election in 2003. It was a divide between the north and the south. Look at Jonathan's election in 2011. Look at Buhari's election in 2015. Look at this. If you begin to look at it, look, in 2015, APC won 21 states. In 2019, APC won 19 states. In 2023, APC won 12 states, Labour Party won 12 states, PDP won 12. So the dynamics, people can come to a conclusion, that because people are moving to APC. We have seen that trend under PDP in the past. When Vincent Ogbuloafo said, he said that it will take PDP 60 years for them to rule, and PDP did not last more than 2 years. So don't let anybody.
So in other words, what we're seeing now, we're seeing mass movement. But the question is, what will happen to the opposition parties? It seems like they are depleted. It seems like they will not be able to, mount any force, if at all.
In 2015,
do we still even have, opposition parties? In
2015, majority of the APC governors that emerged from the north were people that lost PDP's primaries and quickly moved to APC. I recall the present minister of budget, I can't recall his name now, the present minister of budget planning under Atiku Bagudu, lost PDP's primary. Same in Kano. So you see, it will get to a point that the ship becomes too big.
So what will happen to
and it will not be able to accommodate. Now, I tell you, for example, what happens with the whole of the movement in Delta State? Let's use Delta State as a case study. Yeah. What happens to the political interest of the former Deputy Senate President? What happens to the interest of the present Minister of Aviation? Within the scheme of things, the entire PDP structure has moved. James Manager, the party structure, Okowa, and then
so those there are meeting there.
So what happens? The entire structure will be given to the governor. So what happens to the interest of Keyamo? What happens to the interest of the former Deputy Senate? Obioma, what happens to them? All those that happen. So what will happen is that what we have seen in the past is when people moved from the main party to from the opposition party to the main party, those that are in opposition will move in reverse direction. But if they have told you and I that Okowa will join APC before Wiki, everybody will cry. That's why don't take your reputation for any politician. Don't ever.
I'm glad you mentioned Delta State. And let's talk about the people and still stay with Delta State. Governor Sheriff said this move is about accelerating development in Delta State. And I'm sure Deltans will be very happy to hear this. We have a Deltan on the set, by the way. In your view, how realistic is it that changing party affiliations will automatically translate to better governance?
You see, in Nigeria, we don't have political leaders, we have dealers. People are structuring deals. This is about re-election. What makes it easier for me to win the election? 2023 elections and the off-cycle elections in 2023 has taken us back to the default mode that we have before the reforms of 2011 by Taru Jega concerning electoral processes, bringing PVC, bringing technology into it. And we have gone back to the default mode whereby whatever is announced as a result is declared. what happened in 2003 Obasanjo's re-election. I've gone back there. You know, for the past 2 years, the National Assembly has not spoken about electoral reforms. We have not spoken about what are the mistakes we discover concerning 2023 elections and the off-cycle election. In actual sense, the off-cycle election has given them a template. Look at what happened in Imo State. Look at what happened in Kogi State. Look at what happened in Edo State. So you can go there, they are all there in the public domain. Concerning Edo State, it took the even the American embassy said that they are interested in the outcome of the judicial process concerning that. So it is clear that whatever is declared as the result by the, if not for the determination and the result of the governor of Adamawa State, it will be a byword now, because you know, you'll call that electoral visa it's not been tried, it's not been prosecuted, and the result that was declared, if that result has been declared and the woman was declared as the duly elected governor, it will be bygone now. So as far as most of these people are concerned, this is not the movement. You are still going to see movement of governors, particularly from the south, because particularly first-timer governors, those that are seeking.
So are you looking at Sim Fubara?
Yeah, I'm even looking at Akwa Ibom State. Don't forget.
Okay. I mean, he's already endorsed him publicly.
Don't forget that there is an alliance. Look, if you look at the class of 1999 to 2007, there is this political alliance between the governors of Delta State in 1999 to 2000, governor of Delta State, governor of Akwa Ibom State and Lagos State. You know, they were also the stakeholders in Airtel. They both had investment in Airtel. They were the states that actually took Obasanjo's, that established some of the freedom that the states are enjoying today. They were the states that took the federal government to court to gain some of the rights and the privileges, interpretation concerning what's the boundary of the state and what's the boundary of the central government. So if you look at the political relationship between the governors of Delta State, 1999 to 2007, Akwa Ibom State, this is nothing new to if you are a deep follower of the political history of Nigeria. So Akwa Ibom will follow suit, and Enugu will follow suit. It's just a matter. It's the political godfather.
But what about the governor
of Enugu State?
That's actually what I wanted to ask,
because do the governors determine the vote?
Serious
anti-APC sentiment.
Are we even right enough?
The people are not happy with the government. So their governors have just one election. It might sound very naive. The governors have just one vote. So how do the governors determine the outcome of elections?
Is it the ballot that determines the outcome of the election, or the announcement of result by INEC and the determination by the courts? What we have seen in Nigeria today, it's judiciocracy and not democracy, because the actual winners of the election are determined by the courts and not by the citizenry. So, if it's the people that actually determine who wins the election, I'm not too sure that any governor will jump ship, because if it's the people that actually determine the outcome of the election, who did the governor consult to jump ship? Who did they consult? If you look at the experiences of an average Nigerian on the street, you would think that nobody would join APC. But the reverse is the case, because the political class, they know how to cut deals. We have not done anything concerning electoral reforms.
So electoral reforms is the only way to ensure that all of these issues are indeed
and who will push for it?
But the question now is, with all that is happening, do you think electoral reforms would even
it can't take place, because you have seen what the National Assembly, the focus of the National Assembly. The National Assembly, you see, for democracy to thrive, majority will have their way, minority will have their say. Dissent is one of the critical elements of democratic values. But does this present National Assembly tolerate dissent?
Let's even talk about this.
Are you getting my point? So you see that, you talk about state capture the other time. You talk about there are various institutions of the state. What is the level of public confidence in the judiciary? What is the level of public confidence in the legislature? What is the level of public confidence in security apparatus? What is the level of public confidence in, as far as majority of Nigerians are concerned, they are disillusioned with respect to institutions that are meant to superintend democratic governance in the country.
I want to go back to the reforms that we've talked about. You said that obviously the National Assembly, they're distracted, they're not, they're opposed to dissent in any form. But should you have the opportunity to advise on the reforms, the needed reforms, electoral reforms, what would you say these reforms should be?
When majority of the opposition legislature, they are the one that started moving, when they've gone into the... But the bottom line we need to do, if we have to do electoral reform, is for us to ensure that the results...
Transmission?
...is transmitted immediately. We should be able to get exit poll. Once polling closed by let me see, 4 p.m. By 6 p.m., we should, by 5 p.m., we should get exit poll, and then by 6 p.m., the result should be out. Because the result, look, it takes you 4 hours to cast the ballot. Usually between 8 and, let's say 6 hours, 8 and 2 p.m. to cast the ballot. You know how many days it takes to count the ballot? It takes 72 hours. And I've said that, look, if we are using 6 hours to cast the ballot, which is the most difficult thing, counting is easier. Casting is more difficult than counting. So in counting the ballot, we should provide, as we have a time limit for casting the ballot, we should have a time limit for counting. Any ballot that is not declared by 4 p.m. should be disregarded. And that way we eliminate manipulation of electoral result. You see different kind of result that were used. The electoral result, mutilation of the result, and the rest of it. I take you back to 2019. There was a result of a senatorial candidate that was declared, a former sitting governor that lost building status. That was declared, which the electoral officer said he was declared at gunpoint. Nobody was prosecuted. That guy completed his 4-year tenure in the Senate. And that's the sorry situation. They have made you and I to lose confidence, to become depressed. So we are not interested. And that's their focus. Their focus is to make every Nigerian to be interested in the political process when the election comes. So they declare the result. You accept it as a fait accompli. There's nothing you can do about it. You are depressed. You are demoralized. And
you decide not to even vote at the next election. Let's go back to Delta State. These defections that have happened, what would you say, what message would you say is sending to the PDP supporters within the state, especially looking at the fact that it's a state where PDP has been historically strong? So what message is it sending to them?
Well, the message is sending is very simple. We have jumped ship. Follow us. Because look at the major, I told you, James Manager was from 1999, he was a senator from Delta State, one of the longest serving senators. He's the PDP state chairman. Look, every major actor in that party has moved.
So PDP might not recover in Delta State.
You know the death knell for PDP started when they brought Alimadu Sheriff to be their national chairman. That was the death knell. That was when PDP has not recovered. You recall from that crisis when Alimadu Sheriff and PDP itself, self-inflicted wound, the APC had helped PDP to destroy itself. You recall towards 2020 election, they went and brought this former deputy senate president from Benue State, Iyorchia Ayu. Iyorchia Ayu left APC, and then in the campaign train, he was shouting APC. He was shouting APC. PDP chairman, and PDP, they were campaigning. I was at APC, so you could understand that PDP has engaged in self-inflicted wound. It was an internal building, and they've not been able to recover from that. What has happened to the party post 2023 election? They've not been able to put their house in order. Who is the national chairman? Who is the national secretary?
I want us to now talk about opposition again. Wow, PDP is dead.
Is dead.
In Delta State or
in Nigeria.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if you say that the PDP is dead, does this now bring back again the need for a coalition? Because that has been a conversation we've been seeing in the past few weeks, that if at all there's going to be a force that will stand against the All Progressives Congress, it has to be a coalition between the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, NNPP, and the other political parties, SDP. Do you think that it's an important conversation to have? And do you see the success of it if that does happen?
If you want to do an analysis of any system, you go back to the foundation. In 1999, there was a coalition between AD and APP. The coalition has not, until 2015, coalition has not been very, very successful in Nigeria. AD, MPP had a coalition in which Olufalaye was the presidential candidate of APP against Obasanjo in 1999. Obasanjo won that election. We've had different coalitions, but the coalition that worked was that of 2012 2015, when CPC,
ACN,
PDP, and then they formed that coalition. And then from then, you have not been able to see any successful coalition. Hopefully, I can assure you that the 2027 election, if you dot the T's, you cross the T's, you dot the I, it's going to be a divide between the North and the South. The major political bloc of the coalition will present a presidential candidate from the North.
But what happens should the North has come out to say that they need 6 months, if I'm right by my calculation and what I saw, before they would declare their support. They would mention who they are declaring their support to. There are chances that the North may cede, their confidence to another political party. The SDP is starting to look very strong, especially from the North. And there are also rumors that it's going to be between the SDP and the NNPP to form this coalition that is being talked about. What would happen should the North decide to say, okay, they are going in a different direction? Would there be permutations that would affect the elections, or would the president, in quotes, just need a little percentage, marginal percentage, just from the North, as long as he's gotten the, the other states and then he's well long to win?
From the North, you can never count on Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso is a man on his own. It might not be even out of place for Kwankwaso to be part and parcel of the APC argument.
Why do you say so?
I just watched Kwankwaso's political antecedent. And it's not out of place for...
I mean, he was in PDP before.
He was in PDP, went to APC,
then
came
went
back
to
PDP and
then
the rest of it, then went to NNPP. So it's not out of place for the Kano State Governor and Kwankwaso for them to move to APC. It's not that. Don't.
They are independent.
Don't ever rule that. Don't ever rule that. Don't ever rule that out. And then that brings into question what happens to Ganduji and his own supporters too. Because if Kwankwaso should come, the structure automatically will be given.
Absolutely.
So, but the reality on ground is, like you pointed out, that if you are looking at any permutation in the North, that's why I said take Kwankwaso out of that equation. He will operate as an independent person because he has his own large followership and he thinks he has what he thinks he's gotten what he can use to negotiate for his own political survival. But it's very clear that it might not even be SDP. It might even be another platform. In 2011. They made life difficult for Buhari to contest in ANPP, and then they formed CPC. And CPC, by 2011, CPC was able to get, without any governor, was able to get 12 million votes. Now, Peter Obi did not have any governor in 2023. There's no governor, there's no sitting. He was able to win 12 states. So, like, coming back to the issue which you raised, where does the power lie? Does the power lie with the governors or with the people? It actually lies with the people. It actually lies with the people. It is the prevailing sentiment in 2027 that will actually determine the outcome.
Now,
not
still,
the movement
still
of the
talking about the people. I mean, from your analysis in this conversation so far, for the ordinary Nigerian that is watching, we'll just assume that, we're just pawns because this chief executives are using us as negotiating tools and it's all about their own political survival. Is it too early? I mean, we're discussing 2027, and it's not even the second year anniversary of the Tinubu administration, which will happen next month. What space will now be left for governance?
Well, we've said it that there's no room for governance in Nigeria.
Or is the media also guilty of perpetrating
the
this?
media is only reporting, it's only reflecting what's happening in the political space. We are discussing this because the governor moved. Did we force the governor to move? The governor himself moved. And so we have to discuss, we have to give spotlight to issues that are happening in the public domain. Look, we have said it. One, in Nigeria, you will use your first year to pursue litigation. Your second year to do governance. And as you are coming to the end of your second year, you start your re-election bid. So your third year is for re-election. Your fourth year is for prosecuting the election. And then you come to your second term, you use the fifth year for litigation, the sixth year for governance, and the seventh year to look for who is going to succeed you, your successor. So
then the eighth year?
The eighth year, you use to prosecute election and install your successor that you want to install.
So there's nothing
no,
there's nothing government.
That's why
there's no
nothing.
governance.
Look, that's why a state like Delta State will say that you want to join the national party that controls the center. When in actual sense, for 16 years, Delta State was part and parcel of the government that controls the center. For 24 years plus, Delta State was controlled by one party. The structure was within. So what are they looking for? It's just that they are looking for political survival. It's to make it, once you are in the main party, your re-election is 50% guaranteed. All you just need is just a little effort to get past the post.
It's a survival game.
Yeah, it's a survival game.
Well, we wish Delta State the best. Jide Johnson, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for
so
your
many
brilliant
strong
analysis.
statements have been made. Jide Johnson said PDP is dead, not just in Delta State, but nationally. And PDP, we hope that you have a response. We're very happy to have you on the show to come and talk to us about the plans for the party going forward, seeing as everyone is jumping ship to the APC. But moving on to all the conversations, the General Officer commanding 3 Armored Division and Commander of Operation Safe Haven, Major General Olusho Oyinlola, has emphasized the need for media practitioners to remain professional in their reportage. Noting the impact of news reports in nation building, Major General Oyinlola says it is only through credible and quality reportage that the journalists can promote social cohesion in Nigeria. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
This is the leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in Plateau State, led by its chairman, Ayuko Kwaspo, during a courtesy visit on the GOC 3 Division and Commander of Operation Safe Haven, Major General Folusho Oyinlola, at the Maxwell Kobe Cantonment. Ayuko Kwaspo, the chairman of the NUJ in Plateau State, says the visit is to commend the efforts of the military in the state while seeking more collaboration between the men of the pen and those of the booth.
We must appreciate the 3 Armored Division and Operation Safe Haven for its commitment to tame the cycle of violence over the years. We commend your commitment and determination to tame the tide of conflict and crisis in the state, with visits to all military formations under your command and the stakeholders' engagement in Bokkos, Mangu, and other local government areas towards finding a lasting solution to the incessant killings. The Union therefore urges you not to relent, even in the face of daunting circumstances.
Appreciating media practitioners on the plateau for their contribution in peace building in the state, the GOC called for more synergy through professional reportage.
I firmly believe that the media plays a pivotal role in shaping public perception and, crucially, ensuring the accurate dissemination of information. We value your partnership in promoting peace and in actively countering the spread of fake news, which can have devastating consequences, escalating tensions, and undermining national security. We commend those journalists who consistently uphold the highest standards of ethical reporting, particularly when operating within conflict-sensitive environments. Responsible journalism is the bedrock of a strong national security framework and cultivates essential public trust.
The major goal of the collaboration is to ensure that journalists provide accurate, unbiased, and comprehensive information, and above all, consider national security while doing their job. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
And that's a detailed report there by Chizoba. If you're just joining Breakfast Central, let's take you through a recap of what we've had to bring you up to speed and then share with you what's coming up next. So far on Breakfast Central, the conversations have been about Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori, Ifeanyi Okowa as well, who have dumped PDP for the APC. And not just them, we also have some state commissioners. There's a lot of movement happening this election season, and Jide Johnson joined us to dissect it. Nigerian Army tasks journalists on conflict-sensitive reportage. These have formed the bulk of our conversation for the first hour. Now let's share with you what the next hour is going to look like. Coming up next on Breakfast Central.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central this morning, Professor Utomi set to mobilize Nigerians to reclaim country. Niger Delta kidnap victims alleges all bunkers abducted. And district head laments farmer displacement in Benue State. We'll bring you this and more on Breakfast Central this morning. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The second hour begins here on Breakfast Central. Let's start off by telling you that an unprecedented move by an erudite Nigerian is set to occur as Professor of Political Economics. Professor Pat Utomi plans to mobilize 7.2 million Nigerians to Abuja in a campaign against the political elite. I'm sure you will be wondering, what is this mobilization? Well, Freedom Converge, as it is called, is said to be aimed at reclaiming Nigeria from entrenched systems of state capture and self-serving leadership. But what does this mean for the future of our nation? Well, what is this also going to mean, especially if it's going to be yet another protest without results? Anyway, joining us for this discussion, we do have Professor Pat Utomi himself, leader of this proposed freedom coverage. Thank you so much for indeed being here. And thank you for buying our time to speak with us on the plans. 7.2 million Nigerians. What's the context behind this? And a lot of Nigerians are wondering where and why is this coming now?
Well, you see, many years ago, I had the privilege of sharing a platform with a very remarkable gentleman called Stephen R. Covey. Stephen R. Covey had written a number of remarkable books on personal effectiveness, most famous of which was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Before Covey died, he authored a book titled The 8th Habit. And he said this habit would probably be the most important habit of the 21st century. And he says it's about helping people find their voice. The Nigerian people are shell-shocked by where the political class has brought it to. They have even lost their voice. In groups, they have lost their voices. I tell you a remarkable thing that happened 2 days ago to me, and I am still trying to figure it out. I got a call from Aberdeen in Scotland. A gentleman I've spoken to a few times, works for one of the oil companies, and he was crying like a baby, and I thought, oh my goodness, what is this? And I said, what happened? Who did you lose? Because he's from Edo State, I figured maybe there was some kidnapping or something. And he says, so is this how my country will die? This is how Nigeria ends, eh? I said, what do you mean? He said, look at it. Is it not over? Is Nigeria not finished? And I thought to myself, my goodness, question of this, and he's at least 50 years old. A funeral deck for Nigeria, but it's over. I said, no. There are many people hurting in Nigeria who don't know how to express themselves. And I thought, look, this is really a tragedy, and a great service can be done by helping people find their voice. Today, we have Nigerians who are aching from killings in their neighborhood. Nigeria, somebody said, Bishop Cook has said Nigeria has become a morgue. You know, killing fields, everybody, you just look expecting to be, you know. As somebody I spoke to yesterday night, a prominent person, I can't, it won't be fair to mention his name, and he's in Abuja. He has to go to a meeting in Enugu, and he couldn't get a flight into Enugu today, this morning. I'm sure he would have left, so, you know, for whatever reasons of flight challenges. And he bought a ticket to fly to Port Harcourt. And I said to him, between Abuja and Enugu and Port Harcourt and Enugu, difference is marginal. You know, why didn't you drive? He said, drive from Abuja to Enugu is taking a chance with life. Between Port Harcourt and Enugu is a little better. How can we live like that? Insecurity all over the place. And before you even start talking, the partisan, you know, the greatest damage people have done to Nigeria is this extreme partisanship without thoughtfulness. They'll start insulting you. We know the country isn't working, but they would tell you that everything is, you know, going like it's never gone well before, you know, then you turn to the economy. I mean, people are hungry. They're trying to express themselves. Then a musician sings a song, you know, saying a big power and whatever, and you ban his song. This is authoritarianism of the worst order. People can't seem to be able to express themselves. And we thought, okay, let's help people find their voice.
All right, you've given us a context as to what has inspired this, which is the sentiment that a number of Nigerians have expressed. The fact that, you know, what they ordered is not really what they got. It's what we hear Nigerians say in terms of hunger, criticism of dissenting voices. Now, what shape and form is this protest going to take? Is it going to be a physical protest? And are you concerned about the possibility of a pushback? Because many have said that the government of the day isn't particularly excited about dissenting voices.
Yes, because they don't want people's voices to be raised. And that is why Nigerians have to take back their country. You know, the bishop, the Catholic bishop of Nsukka, Bishop Ona, is known for a particular homily in which he says, you know, a country that the leaders don't fear their people is as good as dead. And that is true. The political class now has complete and total contempt for the Nigerian people. Democracy is supposed to be our people raising their voices. Even under military rule, when I was a younger person, 50 years ago, as undergraduates, sometimes things will be happening and they're still ongoing, and we're on the streets demonstrating, to find that Nigerians can't even think out of fear. Soldiers didn't shoot Nigerians the way civilians are shooting Nigerians for wanting to express themselves. Something has gone fundamentally wrong with that democracy. It cannot be called a democracy anymore. And so we need to make it democracy. We need to begin to express ourselves and to make sure, to let the people be sure that they are the bosses. They own the country. Agents cannot become the people who own the place. And so an expression that is loud, that the world can hear, of the voice of the Nigerian people, that enough is enough, is a critical one if the process is to remain democratic. And so we have chosen to get together to express ourselves. It is not just one protest. It is a process. I mean, the demonstration itself, or the converge on Abuja, the process will take nearly 1 month. It started now already. We're looking at about the 1st of December. And between now and then, activity moving towards that will be taking place all across Nigeria. Now, a week or two before the actual conversion on Abuja, we'll be having concerts, colloquia, all kinds of programs of enlightenment of people about their rights and freedom will be taking place, just the way the Martin Luther King and co march on Washington in 1964 took place. We will have activities in Maiduguri, activities in Sokoto, activities in Yenagoa, activities in Asaba, in Ado-Ekiti, and then progressively in convoys, in trailers, the people will start moving towards Abuja and converge, all in green, white, green. If you look down from a satellite as the crowd moves towards Abuja, you will have a spectacle the world will remember of green, white, and green coming in from every angle into the city of Abuja. And this is what we plan to do. And don't say that we're going to try to stop us. We have a right as citizens to protest. They try to stop us. Somebody may stop them. Let them be sure of that.
Do you intend to give notice? Remember that with the End Bad Governance protest, they were required. They had asked for notice as to where they should converge, and they were given, you know, a streamline of how the protest should happen. Do you intend to do that with this protest?
This is notice I'm giving right now, that we're coming from every corner of Nigeria into Abuja and expecting to arrive about December 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. The movement will start 2 weeks or so before that, and the movement will continue until we get to Abuja. If they try to stop, people will get there the way Natasha Akbuchi got to Kogi. But get there, we will.
Okay, you mentioned, do you have a date to this? I mean, and my colleague just rightly mentioned that, have you gotten the approval of the police? Because...
Who are they? Who are they to approve? Who are they? We are the citizens. Who are they to approve? I don't understand what kind of democracy you're talking about. Gotten approval. Who? People who demonstrated with me a few years ago are asking me for their approval for us to do what they and I did before. Who are they?
Now, Professor Utomi, away from the political class, you've been very vocal about the deeper crisis of elite in Nigeria. Can you break this down for us? And what exactly does this elite crisis look like? And how does it perpetrate bad governance?
An elite that cannot centralize the need of the people, cannot centralize institution building, but is so hopelessly committed to extracting rent for themselves, cannot really be called an elite. And so in a sense, talk about elite in Nigeria is a misnomer, because this is not an elite. This is really a rent-gorging, parasitic class. A class that is an elite looks at the long-term good of its people and plans to get there. I have given continuous examples comparing us with our peers. I gave the example, I was in a lecture a couple of days ago by a friend of mine who was researching in Indonesia about the same time as I was back in the 90s, and eventually wrote a book. He's a professor at Johns Hopkins University, Professor Peter Lewis. Peter wrote a book titled Growing Apart. And Growing Apart is a comparison of Nigeria and Indonesia. You could see systematically how the elite of Indonesia, in very similar circumstances, and that's why Indonesia is called Nigeria's development twin. The elite of Indonesia, in the face of the impact of oil, because it's an oil-producing country too, huge population like Nigeria, spread on thousands of islands in this archipelago, were able to build an economy that kept waxing stronger and stronger and better life for their people. In the early 60s, people used to say to Indonesians, we wish you guys could be like Nigeria. By the 1980s and 90s, they were saying, Nigerians wish you could be like Indonesians. The failure of Nigeria is the failure of elite. And Indonesia-Nigeria comparison is one example. And you can go from place to place. Just yesterday night, I was speaking with some people who were looking at some points like Dubai, that all the money spent to bring Dubai to where it was is like 10% of the money Nigeria earned from oil. We can't say anything in Nigeria. We go to Dubai to witness the spectacle. So there is a real fundamental crisis of elite. An elite that does not have a sense of shame to recognize, my goodness, we've not done right by our people. That cannot be called an elite. And this is what we're dealing with in Nigeria. The consciousness that this rent-seeking class has to deal with, to understand the damage they have done to their country. Look at the cost of running government. Compare it to any normal country that is making progress. I mean, look at what it takes us to keep a National Assembly going. We don't need it. We don't need a National Assembly. It does not add value that can justify what we are. So we have to return to a citizen legislature, part-time National Assembly, We have to return to the parliamentary kind of system where people are holding government accountable. The agency function is played out in the House literally every day. A prime minister or whoever is at question time, people are asking. But today's leaders in Nigeria are not accountable. Who are you? You have to go and beg them. Not them say to you, look, this is an account for what our stewardship. You know?
Yeah,
so there are fundamental problems Nigerian people need to voice out and put on the table and say to the political class, enough is enough. Otherwise, we took over this building. It is our building.
Well, I mean, just like you've mentioned, we're aware of this campaign that you're putting together. But it seems like the campaign is coming at a rather different time for the political elites that you want to speak to through the process, because I'm sure you're aware of the cross-carpeting that is taking place now, especially from Delta State. There seems to be movement of political stalwarts, political juggernauts moving from one place to the other. And this is all, you know, many have said it's a plan towards 2027. First of all, how do you see the movements from the political elite that you want to address? And do you think that this campaign will in any way, you know, situate or hold water in terms of what you plan to achieve? Because they seem to be busy already thinking about 2027.
You've just made my point. They are not a serious political class. You know, if this is all that they are spending their time doing. Democracy is about contestation of ideas, rational public conversations, as Jürgen Habermas, the philosopher of the public sphere, would put it. Contestation of ideas rationally put together. But in Nigeria, where of people, you know, if you steal enough, you must join the APC so that you will not go to jail. You know, how can you have a country like that and people can continue to breathe in it? It's you know, the place stinks. Many years ago, Malaysia, in their drive to get to where they are, found a mantra. Mahathir Mohamad found a mantra that Lyndon Baines Johnson had left. It says, it's better for everybody to be inside the house, pissing out. That's some people to be outside the house, pissing in, because the house will stink like crazy. And Nigeria's house stinks. How can you have a political class? People are saying, look, you've not delivered for the people. And all you're doing is trying to rush into where you won't go to jail for stealing. And so you're all entering one house. So everybody's getting in there.
Just to get context of what you just said, sir, are you saying that you believe that, in particular, the former governor of Delta State, His Excellency Ifeanyi Okowa, has moved to the APC because he is trying to evade EFCC arrest and, you know, evade the whole judicial process? Is that what you're saying?
I don't care what he's trying to do, but what I know is that one of them has said, look, if you want to get away from going to jail, better join us in APC. That's on record very clearly. And we know what has happened, that many who have joined have been spared prosecution. So if you are a logical thinker, you can infer as you desire. This is what people are thinking.
All right. So now, still talking about this protest, and you know, you've said it's going to last from now up until the 1st of December, and that there'll be activities during that period. What shape or what form is it going to be? An organic protest? Is it, or do you have a plan already in the way in which you're going to mobilize people to be a part of the protest? And do you think that Nigerians are really in the state of mind to come out for a protest? Because judging from the major last two protests we had, the End Bad Governance protest, the NSAS protest, many would argue that they're starting to lose the zeal and the steam to be able to stand as a dissenting voice. So do you think that Nigerians still have the energy or the excitement to show up for a protest?
Well, if they don't, it means that they have decided they want to be slaves. And slavery, at least, is not my portion. Let me stand up and die saying I will not be a slave. Look, there's a a beach on the east coast of the United States where during slavery, it was famously known, a group of slaves from Nigeria were landed, and they did not want the humiliation of slavery. And they all decided that they would drown themselves rather than be slaves. And they walked into the water in their hundreds, perhaps even thousands, and just drowned. There are people who are ready to drown rather than be slaves. And Nigeria is moving to becoming a slave post where people cannot express themselves, where life is worse than brutish in the John Locke sense, in the Hobbesian sense of the state of nature. And so if this is the life, then there are people who will say, I dare not to be taken in as a slave. And this is what will galvanize the people who are hurting so badly from all kinds of things. It's a signaling that the politics that Nigeria plays today is not acceptable to many Nigerians. And by the way, this is a movement that has a very strong diaspora base, so that you will have a march on Washington, a march on London, a march on Frankfurt, and some other places. It will take on a life of its own, but we already have people organizing in these places who will carry out that march before even the march on Abuja, which is the climax. And we are enrolling diaspora types who want to come in their thousands to join the protests in Nigeria because they thought from how Nigeria is running.
Now, Professor Utomi, you were unsparing in your criticism of the media, accusing it of being captured and complicit. But here you are speaking to us freely, being critical of the government. What do you think a true and free, independent media in Nigeria should look like, and what role do they play?
You know why it's difficult to throw these kind of things and think you can intimidate me? When I was much younger than you, I was active in the media, so I know what we used to do. Go back and check what age I edited New Breed magazine, which was one of the first news magazines in Nigeria in the 70s. We knew what we did as young men, as 21-year-olds in the media. And today, we see bourgeois journalism. Everybody's a columnist. Everybody's in cahoots with somebody. Well, of course, there are good people still in the media, quite a number. But you have to have glittering generalities, as they say in advertising, to make a point that the media isn't what it used to be. In fact, those who were the ones who stirred up the media back then, today, they are the ones who are the biggest in cahoots. Maybe old age has hit them and they're looking for the comforts before they die. Well, some of us are ready to die the way we came, in struggle. The point is that we used to talk about developmental journalism. We used to talk about the obligation of the fourth estate of the realm. Yes, there are people who are still struggling to leave the space open. But look at how the media has not fought back. The way they are abusing NBC, Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, to stifle the voice of the people. All of these things, in our time, students would have been on the streets. But what has happened? They've destroyed the student movement. We used to be student leaders.
What can the media do differently, Prof?
Sorry?
What can the media do differently to be responsive to the people?
Yeah. I mean, you can do more. That is the point. Showing how voices are being stifled in society today. You can do more holding government accountable. I give one simple example. Look, in my time, if there was the kind of level of hunger, desperation in the land, and we hear, and in that my time, there was a young army officer called Obasanjo, who was head of state. And oil prices went down a notch or two. And he said, look, Nigeria must go down to cutting his coat according to his cloth, not according to its size. He came down as head of state to Peugeot 504 as the official state car. And of course, everybody in government went from there down. And we see ourselves in a time when things are so bad, people are dying, hungry. And people say, in journalism, Nigerian journalists say, look, government needs to buy a befitting new jet for the president, or a yacht. You know, the president is befitting. And when I hear stuff like that, I know that the soul of our country is gone. Because you couldn't dare do that in 1975, 76, 77, and students won't be on the streets, and journalists won't be writing for help to high waters to come down. But they're getting away with it today. And the media is, you know, pussyfooting around and saying, well, befitting. What befitting what? Everybody just collapsed under the new authoritarianism, under a moving fascist machine. Let us be careful how history will judge us. I beg all of us, let us be careful, because history will indeed judge us.
All right, Professor Utomi, just to wrap up with my question for you this morning. You did hear what a former presidential aspirant and, of course, a pastor talking about Tunde Bakare, what he said just over a few days ago, talking about the current administration. He did mention a few things and then called on the president not to play God. Following that, other Nigerians have also spoken out. We did see the former vice president, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who also spoke up and said there's a lot going on within Nigeria's current economic and political state. I want to ask you in particular, what do you make of the current judiciary in Nigeria? What do you make of the judiciary? What do you also make of the 10th Assembly as well?
The 10th Assembly is a non-assembly. I can tell you that. You can just write it off. The 10th Assembly did not happen. It was a national disaster. But that is it. You know, I hope I'll have the grace and the time to write a book on the 10th Assembly, but it has been a disgrace. If you go back to what some national assemblies have done, and Pastor Bakare pointed out examples of the National Assembly in Nigeria historically. Look, at this time when there are so many challenges in our country, the 10th Assembly should have been in exhaustive conversations about the problems of legislation that can end all these insecurity, the terrorist state, people, private members' bills about state policing, community policing, and all of those. No, 10th Assembly doesn't have any time for that kind of thing. They have time for their own welfare. That's all they think about. And so Pastor Bakare was very right. The judiciary, oh, my heart bleeds, my heart bleeds, my heart bleeds. Look, most of the writing on how countries make progress focus on institutions and institution building. I've given this example so many times, but it won't hurt to mention it again. I came to Nigeria in October, and as I was returning, the morning I arrived at Washington, the Nobel Committee announced the winners of the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economics. And they were James Robinson, Darren Acemoglu, and Johnson. And CNN was interviewing Robinson. And Robinson made the point that we make about institutions, and that's my area. That's institutions and economic performance is the area that I've done most of my academic work. And in making the points, he says, look, today, how countries make progress is really not rocket science anymore. You can show how it happens. And there are countries that know what it takes to make progress, but they choose for some reason not to, and named Nigeria as an example. It's been yonks since we started saying, look, part of the reason Nigerian economy is not growing is the Nigerian judiciary. Because anybody who looks at the kind of judgments that come out of the Nigerian judicial area will not seriously invest in Nigeria. This is not something that started last week. That's why I say we have a crisis of elite. You can blame Bola Tinubu for some things, but it's a bigger, broader problem. A crisis of elite. A judiciary failed us so badly. When we have institutions that can't work, like, look, you see, the electoral process doesn't work anymore. Nigerians don't trust INEC. And part of the reason they don't trust INEC is that INEC has passed the buck of deciding who wins an election to the judiciary. And people know what goes on in the judiciary and have lost confidence in it. Lawyers are the first people. By the way, Pastor Bakare, in his comments, quoted Bastiat, who I often refer to, his 1849 monograph, The Law, speaks so boldly about institution building, the role of the law in economic advance. Bastiat was a laissez-faire speaker. Pastor Bakare talked about his formal role, but his bigger contribution was his contribution to thought about institutions and economic performance and the role of the law. And the law in Nigeria has been very badly managed. I tell lawyers, I pushed a number of lawyers to start years ago what was called Lawyers Interested in Free and Fair Elections Live, showing them example of what their colleagues, even in Pakistan, where they've had so much trouble, have done. When the Chief Justice of the country was bullied by the executive branch, lawyers marched on the streets in Karachi until government reversed itself. But our bourgeois law practitioners have watched the law become an object of, well, sorry to say, disdain. And I don't speak to this thinking that I am some isolated fellow. I've had NBA chairmen, because I've been invited very frequently to NBA affairs to come and comment. And I've had NBA chairmen basically dismiss the Nigerian judiciary, not once, not twice. How can we have a situation where even lawyers are dismissive of the judiciary and a judge still has the sense of presence to go and sit?
I certainly,
no, that's it.
I certainly know that the NBA, especially the NBA conference this year, would have a number of issues they will need to deliberate on in terms of the role that the lawyers play in ensuring that they uphold our democracy. Professor Pat Utomi, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm glad that I've been able to.
All right, more conversations will happen this morning after this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Lots of conversations have been had. But before we went on the break, we spoke with Professor Pat Utomi, who shared with us the planned protests. And he says that these protests will last up until the 1st of December, as citizens will come together, will converge together. It's called the Freedom Converge, and they're going to be demanding for better from the government in terms of quality of life, standard of living, and the message will be sent to political elite. And a number of conversations we had as well regarding the recent cross-carpeting that we've seen, particularly in Delta State, and what this might mean for the political class as well as for citizens. And I remember, the last question, Joe, that I asked him, asking about if citizens are tired, because when it comes to protests, here in Nigeria, the sense that we get and the feeling we get from our viewers is that people are tired of protesting, because they feel like when they come out to protest, they have tear gas being fired at them, almost like they're trying to
disrupt them.
Exactly. They send thugs to disrupt them and then claim that, the protest was hijacked. So that's the sense that we get. So it will be interesting to see if people will come out. I asked him if he has concerns about that, and he said if Nigerians don't come out, it means
But I
okay
must give kudos to Professor Pat Utomi. He's an accomplished Nigerian, very professional. And seeing him at this stage of his life and knowing how Nigeria used to be in the past to its present day and seeing the rot in the system, I mean, this is coming from a place of hurt. For him to do something about it, I mean, this is what you expect 40 or 30-year-olds to drive, because they're the leaders. This is the future they're talking about. But everyone is on TikTok doing one dance challenge or the other. So kudos to Professor Pat Utomi. Kudos, yeah, that's the right word.
It's kudos.
Yes, kudos.
Yeah, not
the other one.
The other one. All right. But then again, to bring it back home, I think a lot is happening in quick succession, and that's why I also asked the question that, are you sure the timing is, rife? Is it enough, or is it the right time for you to really engage?
I mean, the right time is always now.
And why I say is it the right time, Benga, I'm going to look at it this way. Anyone who would want to stage a protest must ensure that he has a treasure chest. And I'll explain why I say so.
Well, the logistics of it.
Yeah, if you're trying to mobilize people, Nigerians have a song that's constant in every home. Ibin power, people are hungry.
True.
And if you expect a convergence to be held, let's say, on the Third Mainland Bridge, you want it, let's converge on maybe somewhere in Ikeja, people would have to transport themselves to get there. But he said that if they don't come out, then it shows that they are in support of what's really happening.
Well, they like being
exactly. When Shore had his last protest and he was here, and of course those who joined him in that protest, they also came out to say that at the end of the day on X, they said Nigerians deserve what they get, because it shows that Nigerians they deserve what they are getting now. They deserve it because they are the ones who have actually got into this area. But I mean, as journalists, what we do and what we would do is basically to look at what would happen from there. You cannot decide what each person should do or not do, but we would continue to, follow suit, report what's going on, look at it from the different aspects like we're discussing here, the possibilities and so on, and then see how impactful whatever decision that anybody wants to engage in would be. But then again, he's made up his mind. He said he's going to go ahead. Let's wait and see.
I wonder why we're so allergic to protests. Just last week in America, there were people, I mean, Trump just won this election. He's just crossed the 100-day line. And there were protests in Washington, the capital of the United States of America. A serious, major protest against him. And we didn't hear any reports of tear gas or threats or people bundled into Black Marias. It's part of a democracy, and they, like Dr. Julia Johnson said, it's a decent, it's a critical component of democracy.
Anyway, well, that's a conversation we've had with Professor Pat Utomi. We'll bring you updates on as regards what the next plans definitely are. Well, let's tell you that the recent surge in kidnappings on the Port Harcourt-Bille route has been attributed to suspected illegal crude oil refiners operating in Bille Creeks. Now, according to freed kidnapped victims, let's tell you this. The illegal crude oil refiners expressed anger and frustration over being dislodged by Tantita Security Services. Well, let's get to know more about the kidnapping, how it impacts on the society, and what's this story all about. Well, let's tell you that Biola Festus took time out to ensure that she unearths more critical aspects of this story in this report. Take a look.
On the 4th of April this year, a passenger boat conveying some 6 persons from Port Harcourt to Bille was hijacked by suspected pirates. In desperation, families of the kidnapped victims cried out for help, urging authorities to enhance security measures on the waterways. 12 days later, The victims were released by their captors, but their freedom was not without a price. A whopping sum of 28 million naira was paid in ransom.
Where they took us, we don't know, nobody. If our brothers and sisters are looking for us, they cannot see us, even 10 years.
About 12 days without food. So we are drinking salt water. No food, beating us, just like that.
Right now, I am very sick. I now have a chest problem because they use the gun head to hit at my chest, hit all over my body.
However, contrary to what was previously believed, the abductors turned out to be a group of illegal crude oil miners and refiners, reportedly venting their anger against the Bille community for allowing Tantita Security Services pipeline surveillance in their domain.
We asked them what is the problem. They said nothing, that they come here to kidnap us, that we don't want them to do bullfire. Bille people don't want them to do bullfire, that we stop bunkering. So they are supposed to benefit from the bunkering, but as Bille people went and signed Tantita contract.
So when they took us to their destination, is there they revealed that somebody asked them to come and kidnap me, that I'm the Tantita chairman, head of the Tantita Bille, and I'm the one that taking care of the warheads from the Bille houses, that I refuse them to do bunkering.
The victims explained that their abductors vowed to disrupt peace in Bille community and its waterways as long as Tantita Security Services continues to crack down on illegal crude oil activities.
Their major problem is the Bille people, because they said Bille people is the ones that scattered their port that they are using to boil the crude. So Bille people is their targets, right? That any Bille boat they see, they will finish them. After this our incident, let's say any Bille boat that they see in that river, they will kill both the passengers and the drivers.
The Bille community remains gripped by fear and uncertainty, with residents hesitant to travel to their ancestral homeland due to the ongoing security concerns and threats from the illegal oil refiners. With the revelations by freed kidnapped victims, the onus is now on the government and security operatives to take decisive actions to protect the people of Bille community and address the menace of illegal oil refining, popularly known as bullfire in the area. In Rivers, for News Central, Biola Festus.
Good report there from Biola Festus, talking about the Bille community there, and the kidnappers, according to the victims who gained their freedom. I think it's just something that's got to do with one, they are not happy with the fact that maybe they don't have access to what they used to have access to before, because Tantita Services has put a very strong hold.
But what they were doing was criminal activity.
But you heard what they said, telling the victims that the next time they come, they would ensure that they would unalive everybody that they find on either of the boats, especially in that community. And one would wonder, you see, Benga, sometimes when we discuss these stories, you start to wonder. It shows how deeply entrenched, how far deep corruption and how people view it. Because you were benefiting from something and now it's been taken away from you, why don't you just find a way to earn another living? But now you are now expressing your anger towards innocent people and saying that you're going to deal with them as a reprisal attack for what they've done.
Kudos to Tantita Oil Services for rescuing those kidnapped victims. Now the onus is on other security operatives to step up their game and also ensure protection for these people. And sometimes I wish, but this job is really, really hard. Every day it's one negative story or the other in different parts of the country, and we really need a break, or we need Nigeria to work so we stop
have different stories
reporting all this negative.
Bille community definitely deserve, better protection, security. They need the government of Rivers State to step up for them and show up for them in this instance. Just again a reminder that insecurity is a national problem here. It's not just Bille community. Our hearts are with the people in Bille community, with people in Plateau, with people in Benue. Again, we need to go back to the drawing board, and the arguments will continue to. We can keep passing the bulk of the blame. Is it the presidency it lies with? Is it the governorship? But the governors. But we certainly do think that it's a joint responsibility. But maybe again, we need to revisit our security parastatals, our security apparatus, and maybe now focus on actually decentralizing security in Nigeria. But again, these are ongoing conversations. There's more to come this morning on Breakfast Central, so let's share with you what's still to come. Still to come on Breakfast Central, we will be looking at the newspaper front pages. This is the point where we open the phone line, so when we review the papers, please feel free to call. And I'll be taking your thoughts on some of the biggest stories, of course, focusing on camping today. 11 a.m. West African time, Business Edge, 1 p.m. West African time in the game. We'll be sharing with you what's happening later today on News Central. You're welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Olive Emodi. We begin in Nigeria's southeast, where News Central is set to host the latest edition of its town hall series in Anambra on Thursday, with a strong focus on the escalating issue of insecurity in the region. The town hall aims to bring together key stakeholders, community leaders, security experts, and the public for a robust conversation on the root causes and sustainable solutions to violence in the region. Through its town hall, News Central continues its commitment to fostering dialogue, amplifying underrepresented voices, and driving solutions to Nigeria's most urgent challenges. The Anambra Town Hall will be broadcast live at 11 a.m. on DSTV Channel 422, GoTV Channel 23, and StarTimes Channel 274. Viewers around the world can also join via live stream on YouTube at News Central TV. In the meantime, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has met his security chiefs, which include the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, the Department of State Security, DSS, National Intelligence Agency, as well as Defense Intelligence. The meeting, which held at the official residence of the President in the State House, came amid the rising insecurity across the country. The security chiefs briefed the President on the security situation in the country and efforts being made to mitigate it. Now, still looking at political conversations, President Bola Tinubu reportedly met with Governor Siminalayi Fubara, the suspended governor of Rivers State, in London last week. That's according to Africa Reports, which cited 2 unnamed aides to the president. It is not clear at whose instance the meeting held, but sources say Fubara is expected to play ball in order to smoothen his path back to office. Sources privy to the discussion said negotiations are ongoing with the possibility that Fubara's suspension may be lifted before the 6-month deadline, while also hinting at his likely defection to the APC. And that's all we have for you this morning on Breakfast Headlines. We'll now connect with Breakfast Central. I am Olive Emodi.
Now it's time for us to look at what the big stories making headlines today in our newspapers. Join us this morning for in-depth analysis is Wade Ahimie, head of strategy and public affairs at Nairametrics. Good to have you, Wade. Thank you very much.
It's great to be here again this morning, and I enjoy being alongside my great friends.
Great minds, yes. So we appreciate you too.
Great to have you. I just wanted to ask before we get into the newspaper review, do you by any chance happen to plan to defect to the APC as well?
The transfer season has opened.
Political transfer window.
Well, I don't know. I didn't say anything, but I know that there is a transfer window that is opened. Yeah. We've seen the first tranche of players who are moving. So they are moving from a P to an A. So maybe they are going to become PAs. But we expect more and more transfers to come in the months to come, especially for those, in my own opinion, who have to run for an election and they have nothing to lose.
Any key players
they have something to lose, and then the ones who have nothing to lose.
Who are the Ronaldos and the
But there's some
Messis
strikers that they are mentioning. Some strikers are making the headlines. For instance, they said a striker who plays for Rivers United might be moving.
That's very possible.
There's one for Aqua United.
You know, he had an injury.
Yes.
I guess he's recuperating well. So the expectations could be that during this transfer window, there will be enough funds to be able to move him from Rivers United to.
Who are the players to look out for this season?
We've already seen the ones that have moved. I don't know about some players who are retiring.
Okay.
So you now have to start to look at who would take those places. So in places like Ibadan United, those kind of places where you know that. So those are places you really need to look out for. But at the end of the day, I see them setting up a new Super League.
Okay.
Which will be mostly top class players who will. I'm sure. That's the breakaway league that we have been.
They've been talking about it for the longest. Even though many people have said, they're not.
Well, when we started talking about it in 2024, remember, people were saying no, it's not possible. But now we can see that there's so much funding in the market. So, and people, of course, you go where your bread and butter will be. Really be butter.
In this political football speak that we've had so far, one thing we can all agree with is just like with politics and football, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. I mean, last minute we've seen players.
Yes, and so let's be careful for the late part of the transfer window.
Yes.
These are the early parts. These are certain.
Yes.
So Warriors have moved. You heard that the injured Rivers United player, once maybe he gets healthy, might move if the fee makes sense.
Even Aqua United striker is already saying that he likes what is happening.
So you see, and he wants to. Are you sure he's a striker or he's a central defender?
And even the FCT United, we're not even quite sure how that.
No. The FCT United is probably going to move to become player coach.
As a player coach.
As a player coach.
It's much more like, it reminds us of the days of Zidane.
Yeah, exactly, where he's playing and you're still coaching while you're on the field. And it's very, very important to be in that kind of role.
I think my final question in this area is when we get to the Super League, if it eventually happens, do we see a situation where, a repeat of what happens to Arsenal will happen to certain parties like the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, for example?
Well, also, will he be able to muster the energy to be in the Super League? That's the question he should be asking himself. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's get
we have actually started the analysis.
Because if they just tune in, Benga, I think what we're talking about is in the Punch. The league is in the Punch.
Exactly, the big
So let's take a look at the Punch newspaper headline. Yes, opposition weakens as more PDP governors eye APC. You wonder what's in APC, what are they going there for? And killings, Tinubu demands fresh security blueprint from intelligence chiefs. Federal government grants tax waivers to Dangote, Mikano, 103 others. U.S. indicts Nigerian for $690,000 scam for citizenship claim. And Lagos local government chairman aspirants withdraws for Obasa's son. Well, I didn't know Obasa's son.
So you can see even in the junior leagues.
Even in the junior league, a lot is happening.
And a lot is going to happen.
And INEC moves to legalize voting without PVC.
No,
I really don't want to. Like they say, the devil is in the detail. I don't want to believe what I'm seeing.
What do you mean?
Well, we are forming a super league. So I don't understand how you want the crowds to be able to get enough crowds.
So if you're not voting with PVC, what are you voting with?
So you have there are a number of things that you can use. You can use your BVN. You can use your. First and foremost, I think the most important thing is the NIN. With the census coming,
that's if they do it.
Well, so I think that's the thinking, because if with the census coming, you can kill two birds with one stone, like they say. You can count the Nigerians, and then you can get. We have over 100 million Nigerians now on the NIN, so you can get much more onto the NIN register and have NIN registration numbers. And if you do that, truly, then do you really need a voters register, or you have a compilation of the NIN, and you see, because the NIN will provide you whether someone who has just turned 18 before the elections, and all those things will be there. So if you have that, so if you have that critical data, and then someone walks in, it becomes your voters data. So once I can,
how do we verify NIN on election day? Are we going to need another machine?
You don't need that. How do you verify NIN? How do you verify BVN? I mean, I go there and then I tell you my number, and then you bring it up, and then it shows
like
my
your
face.
Identity. It's like your security number.
That's what
guys,
everybody uses.
Please just hold your thoughts.
So like I said, you can't be setting up a super league, and then you don't have enough fans to come and watch it. What's the essence of spending so much money on players, on top quality players, and then you don't have the fans that are going to help you make that noise?
So, gentlemen and ladies, just hold your thoughts there. We have to go for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll continue our analysis of the front pages. So stay with us. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. This is, we're reviewing the newspapers. Remember, you could call in. We'd like to keep things interactive here. Call in and share your thoughts on any one of the big stories we're reviewing. Now, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. Okay, I think Olive should take this, because it's a story that is very personal to her. She's a Delta, and we're talking about her state.
We're talking about Warri United.
Yes, Warri.
Why we joined APC, Delta Governor Okowa, others say. The explain how Ibadan PDP governors meeting aided exit. Senator Kawu dumps NNPP for APC in Kano. Edo Labour Party Senator Imaswen set to defect to APC. That's another conversation. People are saying that if he's defecting to the APC, then he should give up his position in Senate and Ethics and Privileges Committee, as that should come from an opposition member. 6th-term Osho federal lawmaker quits PDP. Another 2 killed, over 20 farms destroyed by bandits in Plateau. 2027, why we will be back, Tinubu, Tinubu CPC bloc says. Flight operations disrupted as NIMET workers down tools. That's another conversation to be had. EPIC suspends flight. Earned allowances. Federal government releases 50 billion naira to ASU and other unions. Ahead of burial, thousands queued to catch a glimpse of Pope Francis's body. NLC tackles power minister on claims of adequate electricity supply to 150 million Nigerians. Too many juicy stories here.
Too many.
PENCOM recovers 1.58 billion naira from defaulting employers' suspension. Let's start with NLC tackling power minister on claims of adequate electricity supply to 150 million Nigerians. How is the electricity supply in your area? And you don't.
I won't have light in 2 days.
Wow.
What?
Okay.
What? You see, when everybody, I'm saying this because we need to really understand how the power sector works. You understand? So all these claims of 150 million Nigerians. So what he's telling me is that there's enough power in rural Nigeria or rural areas. I don't think that's true, because we are just not generating enough power and transmitting enough power. So it's not like Nigeria, based on estimates, should be, if you need to have stable power between 12 to 18 hours, should be putting out between 10 and 15,000 megawatts of electricity every day into the grid, through the grid. I mean, there are a number of off-grids that people are working on now, but it's still just not enough. So when my birthday mate, the Minister of Power, tells me that 150 million Nigerians are getting adequate power. Adequate power for anybody should be a minimum of 8 hours, not 12 hours in one day and then the next 3 days there is no light.
In fact, one of my...
You're being generous with the 8 hours too.
No, no. That's why I said adequate power should be at least 8 hours. And why I said 8 hours is between the hours of 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 p.m. so that people who go to work, who trade, by that time, they've done enough, at least they've done some level of business to create economic growth.
Viability.
But when you don't get up to 8 hours, then it just doesn't make sense. This is something, I'm not saying this out of, I did work in the power sector for a bit, and I did understand a number of things that could happen, and I saw them, and I've seen them happen, and they are still happening. You know, we talked about Band A, and everybody being on Band A, and I continue to insist. Private consumers, individual consumers cannot pay for electricity anywhere in the world. Their monies come in as contribution effects to the electricity system. It's the likes of the New Central, the industries, those who use heavy-duty equipment. And you don't charge them out of this world because they also need to run a business. But they contribute 65 to 75% of the monies that come in to the electricity business.
And that's why I like what was written in the Punch. The Punch just brought in, it said federal government grants tax waivers to Dangote, Mikano, 103 others. And I think that's the way to go, apparently, with what you've highlighted. There are a few companies or organizations you might want to look into who are economic drivers on their own. They help to boost your GDP. So you might want to... employ, you know, they employ a lot of persons. They ensure that the country keeps running its course, whether you like it or not. And I agree with you with that one, I mean, 100%. But I want to go back to the papers as well. There's a story I want us to look at. It's got to do with, we've talked about the NLC tackling. What did you make of this story, this particular one, concerning Nimet?
Yes, that's the story I really wanted him to speak about.
Yeah.
So on the front page still of Nigerian Tribune,
yes, Nimet.
Flight operations disrupted as Nimet workers down tools. APC has suspended their flight. I was looking into the story as to why the Nimet workers are
Should they even be allowed to strike? I mean, these are very critical organizations.
They said they are not earning a lot of money. They say that their welfare is
Nigerian
not
police and army saying they're going on strike.
Haven't they tried it before?
A few elements, and we know what the result is. But this is critical national infrastructure, your airspace.
And you made mention of the military, and this is where there is always a disconnect for me in Nigeria. The military across the world perform some critical roles aside from, and when they say defending the sovereignty of the country, it goes beyond the tanks and the guns. Strategic things like this, where people like this go on strike, that's where they come in. They start to manage those kind of things in just a short time. Well, of course, the military political party is no longer looking at a number of those things. Because with this, are you with me, it has security implications.
Talk about Nimet, right? Going on strike.
That's security implications. If there's a sudden attack, you just can't fly because you don't have the details of what the weather is like and which kind of planes can you fly.
So those things. The Air Force will rightly fit into.
Oh yeah, they will, and I'm sure they do for their own. Of course they do, and they work with all. Yeah. They do that.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why when they had an issue with the Ikeja Electric, one of the things I said is that the government needs to sit down, are you with me, with the Defense Ministry, the Ministry of Finance, and the electricity companies, because you can't be charging what's it called, strategic military installations that provide security, Band A. And then, of course, there's a budget. If my budget is 3 naira and then all of a sudden it moves 3 times, and then you say I'm not paying, where do I want to pay it from? But coming back to that, and these are strategic things in terms of security that we need to look at. So let me give an example. Nimet is not working. They say, oh, you don't know what the weather is like, and then someone carries a plane and then attacks Nigeria. What happens? We don't see these linkages, but that's a huge part of what the military do. When you fight wars, You don't bring civil engineers from outside to come and build roads and build bridges. It's done by the military civil engineering corps. And these are things we need to go back to and then ensure, even in terms of communication technology.
Yeah.
They're all security issues, and we've just neglected them. And that's why we are, in my own opinion, we're in where we are today. And they say, oh, MTN, you can't get the records of everybody who gets a SIM card. How is that possible? It's a security issue. And what's the military security architecture doing about that? Nobody's saying that. I just say, okay, MTN shuts down the, what's it called? No.
It's a problem.
It is a major problem.
Because of want of time, let's look at Daily Trust. There's a big story there, the front page of the Daily Trust there. 2027, allow younger people to run. Baba Ahmed tells Tinubu. Daily Trust front page there, insecurity, enough is enough. President tells security chiefs. Patients stranded as workers strike, cripples FCT PHCs. Let's take that one at the front there. Allow younger people to run, you know.
Allow competent people to run.
That statement, is it made from a point of, reality?
I don't understand what he means by allow younger people to run. If younger people are not interested in politics, I don't know how they want to run.
And INEC is not saying they shouldn't run.
Nobody has said anybody shouldn't run. But, just before I came in, I was having a conversation with a number of your team, and I was telling them, I've lived a good life in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. I always tell you that everything I am is Nigeria. Exactly. School, education, work is Nigeria. And I'm proud. And that's why I would serve in Nigeria and live in Nigeria all my life. But for you to reclaim Nigeria, then you must be prepared to do politics, to do electioneering. Electioneering, well, see, since the election finished in 2023, you and I, we've all had discussions around it. The president has been planning for 2027. It's beginning to come out now because from next year, the windows will
window open.
But it's already clear that his strategy is long gone. We're setting up a new Super League. How do you do that when you allow young people to? All these people that you're talking about started in their 20s in this Nigeria. But you see 20-year-olds and they're complaining. Now. Even if it's TikTok you're using.
No, I mean they're not.
Nobody. And we're talking about the NIN now.
TikTok. They're
talking about the
politics.
Politics is not every 4 years. Politics is every day. The same way with economics. So what you need to do is that you need to, it's already late, but you need to now start talking and going out and getting your so-called PVC. Now that they say you can vote without a PVC
again now.
Exactly. Then those of you, your friends who don't have NIN, who don't have bank accounts or BVN, something that you can use to identify yourself, driver's license, go out and get them, because once you do that, you start to get your NIN together, which I think is what is going to be used in this case. And believe me, politicians will get enough people registered. And I'm not saying dual registration now. New people registered on the NIN.
Are you satisfied with what's your assessment of young? I know we don't have the numbers, but so far so good. Your assessment of young appointees and young Nigerians that have sought elected office.
When you are not there, how do you get appointed?
No, are you happy with the quality of representation?
Representation is what you have.
No, but there are quite a number of young people.
Are you doubting their quality? Go look at their CVs.
No, I'm asking.
I don't know a number of them, but I'm asking, are you doubting their CVs? And that's it. So representation is what is available. If there are 100 people in a party and there are only 5 young people, of course representation will come from that 5. But if there are 1,000 people in the party and there are 990 young people, then you will see the diverseness in the representation, the diversity in the representation. I leave it at that.
All right. Let's head to Benue State now, where we do have our reporter who's on ground. Sergey Ibrahim is there. Yesterday, he did bring us a report on the insecurity and, most importantly, what the government is doing there. Sergey, thank you so much for joining us once again. The president arrived just a few hours, I'd say 48 hours now. He held a meeting with security chiefs yesterday, about a few hours too. Can you tell us any update concerning what's happening concerning the insecurity in Benue State?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning to everyone in the studio. While the government is making its own efforts to ensure that as much as possible the crisis is reduced, and of course the attacks and security breaches in some of these villages are abated as much as possible, we were actually in these communities to hear from the people and to get a proper understanding much more of what the situation is. So we spent the day yesterday, Wednesday, in a village called Mbachon. It is located in Jatuaka district. Jatuaka is in Kwan, the local government area here in Benue State, and it is one among several local governments that makes up the Benue Northeast Senatorial District. And if you've been following developments, in Benue State, you would understand that most of these attacks have been going on in the Benue Northeast Senatorial District that has local governments, like Ukum that was attacked recently, Logo that was attacked recently. We heard what's going on in Zakidam. Katina Ala, of course, is also not excluded from this. All of these local governments, are clustered in one senatorial district, giving you sort of an understanding that this crisis has been on for long. Now, we got to Jatuaka and also visited the communities there to get sort of an assessment of the situation, in the villages. And I must tell you, Joe, it's a sad one. It's a sad one because a lot of members of these communities have still, not returned to the community, even though the community was attacked on the 27th of March, the last time, according to, news that's available on public platforms. But they've not been able to return, reasons being that they are scared that these bandits would return, these alleged herdsmen would return and also continue to carry out, these attacks. We spoke with the district head. He gave us sort of a comprehensive, information of the situation that's there. Some of the farmers have left these communities because it is no longer safe for them to go to their farms. And if you understand the situation, Benue, with an appellation being the food basket of the nation, it sort of tells you what the situation is, especially considering that these communities are agrarian communities. So if you have a lot of farmers not going to the farm because of insecurity, it tells you the impact that this, can have on food production in the state and, of course, in the country in general. So these are some of the nuances that we got from there, while, of course, the governor and the government continues to do its best to ensure that the situation is checkmated.
Talking about the government and the governor, you've moved around several communities in Benue State. What's the security presence like? And is there any official communication from the government on steps they're taking?
We intend to speak with the Executive Secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency to get responses on government actions. Of course, we've been in communication with some of the officials. So far, it's been responses in terms of taking relief items and relief materials to some of these locations, that were affected, and also assurances and deployment of more security in these areas, of course, that were attacked just recently. However, it might interest you to know that although these attacks happened recently, as recent as 5 days ago, there are some communities, that continue to have or to witness some of these attacks continually from 5 days ago up until this point. That's not been reported. And Jatuaka district is one of those communities because the locals informed us categorically stating that they were attacked as early as 2 days ago. So this sort of gives you, what the situation is like. And for security deployments in these areas, they have complained that although they can see the efforts of the police, of men of the Nigerian Army, and of course of the civil defense, but Benue Northeast is a large senatorial district, and because of that, there's a vast land that is unoccupied, which gives the non-state actors an opportunity to roam the streets or the environments freely. And also because of the fact that the security deployment is not enough to comb these areas effectively, it makes it even more difficult for these non-state actors and these criminal elements to be flushed out as effectively as the government would want to do. Hence the reason why the governor is trying the much he can to get more attention on the state and to ensure that these communities know relative peace, and so farmers because they are mostly agrarian communities, can go to farm and also continue with their livelihoods.
Trying to shine more light on the situation at hand, and again, our thoughts and our hearts are with the people in Benue State. The governor has rejected the idea that this fight is beyond him. He said that since he took office, the local government's order attack have reduced from 17 to 6. Do the people in Benue State share same sentiment and belief in the ability of the current government of Benue State to be able to conquer the challenges with insecurity that the state is currently facing?
Every time I speak with them, they recognize the effort of the current governor, but also you'd understand that the issues on ground precedes this administration. You recall that the previous administration, that of former Governor Samuel Otom, also had these pockets of attacks. At some point, Benue became a hot zone, if you would allow me to use that word, of these attacks. So because of that, the people are no strangers to these attacks, but they feel that it is better, in addition to the governor or the state government's efforts, that they see some effort from the federal government to show that they are as vested and as committed into ensuring that peace returns to this community as much as possible. They feel that the issues are not being amplified enough. They feel that the insurgency currently in the northeast and that's going on here can be compared in some light because of the urgency, of the security that they need in these areas. So they are saying the governor is doing his best, but they also understand that even though the governor is the chief security officer of the state, he does not have direct command, of the armed forces. Hence, there's a limited ability to what he can do, to address these issues. Hence, the reason why they are saying the federal government needs to show some commitment, to ensure that their plights are addressed.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for breaking it down for us and to our viewers. We look forward to, like I always say, hear from you again, and keep up the good work. Thanks for your time.
Well, stay safe.
Absolutely.
And eat pounded yam.
Yeah.
No, it's food basket. It's a food basket.
And everybody turns to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
no,
no,
because
what's your reaction to that? I mean, insecurity, I know you've not touched on that in front pages, but what's your take on that?
Insecurity seems to have become the norm in Nigeria. I remember, I think a few weeks ago, we were talking about insecurity and we laughed over it. But remember what I said is, because we are not reporting them, and your correspondent, made mention to that. At some communities said they were attacked as
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Because we are not reporting them, everybody makes it seem like, oh, the war is over. No, the war is not over. The war is just grinding one more. And let's also remember that some of the things might start to escalate. Why? Because of the political scenario that is coming to be. And the government needs to do a number of things. So the first thing for me, in my own opinion, is create real economic opportunities. Are you with me? One of the things I've always said in building a country or a nation and creating economic activities is where both federal and governments understand that infrastructure development is something that brings a lot of people to work, especially offhand, and people. But we don't see it. If infrastructure development or building a 2-kilometer road will take 2 years, or building a 2-kilometer bridge takes 2 years, then you can't create the needed economic value that is required. It can't happen. I grew up in a country where projects were done in 12, 18 months. All of a sudden, projects are
10 years.
As 10 years. What are you talking about? The expansion of the Lekki-Ekpe Express Route,
Wow, that
one
was long.
lane, is over 20 years.
That was long.
The Lagos Metro line.
They've still not completed the Lagos.
The Lagos
Express
Central
Route
line.
now.
Instead, we're saying, oh, there's a blue line, there's a red line, there's a green line. Just build the bloody thing. Pardon my French.
Meanwhile, I hope you've heard that there's a potential of the Jura Bridge being shut down on the 27th of April.
I have no problem.
And I asked myself,
and I have no problems with bridges being shut down. Eco Bridge has been on shutdown one way or the other for the last 6 months. But when you do that, make sure that people are able to go about their duties. And you work so that during the day, you can create the opportunities for people to go about and go where they need to go. It's only in Nigeria, particularly in Lagos where I work, that I see that infrastructure building or infrastructure maintenance or infrastructure repairs is a 9-to-5 work.
Right. I mean, look at what happened.
I will end it at
Independence Layout. I'm hoping Independence Bridge Road. I'm hoping that we don't have a repeat of what happened then, because it just felt like what they planned to do in weeks ended up happening in hours.
Yeah, for as long as you remain, infrastructure development is like
give the work to engineer
9 to 5.
He makes things happen
quickly. Okay, let's quickly connect with Anambra. We have our correspondent Bernard Akede, who brings us update from the Anambra Town Hall series. Good morning, Bernard. How is the situation there in Anambra? What is the mood like? What should we expect today at the Anambra Town Hall series?
Guys, the breakfast table. Anambra is peaceful. We are in Awka, the state capital, and this is where we're going to be having our town hall series or town hall show, the Anambra series from.
Like we have a bit of technical, and we'll try to reconnect with Bernard so that he can give us an update as to what to expect in the Anambra Town Hall series. I think that Town Hall series have been very, very impactful, because what we do is not just say that we are a voice for the people, we actually go where the story is and feel the pulse of the people. We've done that in Kano, we've done several Town Hall series, we've done it in the United States, and I think that's important. So shout out to our team, the new central team, for constantly giving the people a chance and a voice. I believe Bernard Akede is back. But please go on with your explanation as to what we should expect today at the Anambra Town Hall series.
Oh, okay. I was just, first of all, let me apologize for that. We lost public power supply, and then somebody has suggested that maybe at some point we should do a town hall series on power supply and generation in Nigeria. We'll think about that.
We support that.
We'll think about that. Anyways, we are here in Awka, the state capital of Anambra State, and basically we're talking insecurity this time. We've talked about different issues across the country, and like you rightly mentioned, even outside the country, and we tend to continue. But here we're talking about the state of insecurity in the southeastern part of the country, but we are focusing and basing our conversation here in Anambra State. In the past few days, we've been here, and prior to now, our colleague Chinwe Ugele has done several reports here and in other parts of the southeastern part of the country, and people have been speaking about how the insecurity or the state of insecurity in this region has been affecting them and their livelihoods. Maybe not them directly, but at least their loved ones. There are people who are indirectly affected, and that's what has brought us here today. The governor of this particular state has been doing well, according to the people, but of course the responses we've been getting are similar. People are saying that they wished that the tackling of insecurity that they are seeing had started much earlier, and that they wished that all the measures being put in place now would have been put in place earlier. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a continuous process. So they are hoping that the different infrastructure that have been put in place or that's been put in place now is something that would continue for a long time, and that the cases of insecurity as we have it right now will one day be a thing of the past. So basically that's the reason why we are here, and we are here to bring together people. Of course we can't bring everybody in Awka, but people, stakeholders, some government officials, if we can get them, security operatives who can speak to the matter and speak on the matter as we've not heard before. And that's actually why we're here.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for laying that foundation. I must say you look quite staunch and secured yourself in Anambra State. Now to my question, Bernard, what sort of resource persons and stakeholders are you expecting to speak at the town hall? And could you walk us through the program? What should we expect?
All right, so we're going to be expecting security operatives from the state. We hope that the public relations officer of the Nigerian police, that's Anambra State Command, will join us at some point. He is the mouthpiece of the security architecture here in the state, so we're hoping that he's going to join us. And other security operatives, we hope that we can get a representative of the first citizen of the state. That's talking about Dr. Chukwuma Charles Soludo, who's executive governor. If he's not coming in person, we hope we would have a representative from him. We have different bodies and groups and associations who will be sending representatives to also join us. But most importantly, as you know, our town hall series is about the people and not the government. So we're going to have people fill all the seats that you can see around me here, or you'll get to see eventually. We're going to have victims or their relatives or both who have in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, been affected by these cases of insecurity. We want to hear their testimonies. We want to hear the stories from their mouths and not just basically what we get to see or hear on social media. Also concerning resource persons, we are looking at scholars, we are looking at people from the academia, some professors, some lecturers, who can also come and speak to the matter as well, who can possibly even suggest certain things that could be put in place eventually, that the government can get to listen to and add to whatever framework that they are putting together or that they already have. And of course, you know, all on sundry, we also expect people, random people who we've invited to come and join us and fill some of these seats here. They would listen, they would speak and contribute. You never know where, you know, the silver bullet that will cure all of this will come from. It could come from the ordinary man on the streets, it could come from the lecturer from the classroom, and it could just come from, you know, possibly even one of us giving our own suggestions. So, excuse me, these are some of the people that we are expecting today, and we definitely do hope that they'll join us eventually.
Well said, Bernard. I want to say thank you so much for joining us and giving us an update, especially as we count down to the start of this town hall meeting. One last thing, and if you could answer very quickly as we are nearing the end of Breakfast Central. We do understand that you'd be joining the ladies on Jasiri to also talk some more. But can you confirm to us that there would be representatives from the camp of the governor who would definitely try their best to be there at the town hall, because they would need to hear more from what the people have to say on a one-on-one basis?
Well, our fingers are crossed. We have sent, you know, we've sent invitations, and we do hope that there will be at least a representative or representatives from the camp of the governor and the sitting government here in Anambra State. And should they come, we'll be more than glad to host them and to hear from them as they speak, because we want the people to speak and we want the government to respond directly. So again, our fingers are crossed, and we expect that one or two persons will be coming to join us from the governor.
All right, thank you, Bernard Akede, for bringing us the update from the Anambra Town Hall series. And just to mention that our viewers who should stream live, those who are not in Nigeria, those in the diaspora, we're hoping that we can also take social media feedback and incorporate that into our program today. Thank you very much, Bernard. Do stay safe. All right, coming back to you, the final thoughts as we wrap up the show this morning.
Final thoughts. First, let me just mention what happened to Bernard. 150 million Nigerians now have adequate power.
Yeah.
Yes, the story we took on the front page of the newspaper. The irony of that.
Anyway,
my final thoughts, a number of things, two things. One, insecurity. Insecurity would become better where we have more, through better economic indices in Nigeria. I'm not talking about the numbers of inflation at all. I'm talking about the people who are able to get work done even on a daily basis. That's the first one. And then the second one is, let's keep a close watch towards the 2027 elections. I just hope that Nigeria is not becoming a one-party state.
All right. Thank you so
much. With these few words of ours, we hope we've been able to convince and not confuse you that the Anambra Town Hall series is important for you. And you might say you're not from Anambra State, how does it concern you? We're all connected, interconnected with the same challenges. And it's important that you're kept up to date with the progress that is being made and that your voice is heard. We're streaming live at 11 a.m., DSTV 422, GoTV 23, and via X as well as YouTube. So please be a part of the conversation. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Olive MOD.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Don't forget to also watch us Star Times 274, okay? And on Facebook, stream live on YouTube as well. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here.
And I'm Benga Bora, and I'm just wondering if the Eds and Wines will be attending the town hall meeting. Yeah, good night. Who know about it?
Remember they arrested them, and they told them...
No, they're stakeholders.
So are they still going to come there?
They're Eds and Wines.
They're Calabash and all that.
Work, all in favor.
You know, that was the question I was always asked Bernard, if he spotted any of them around.
All in favor of Eds and Wines being there, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll see you
Eds and Wines lives matter.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.